Hey, what's up guys? John here. They have just reached an agreement with all corporations paying 15% of a global tax. This, right now, this news is detrimental for everyone. The 99% of people are going to be in huge trouble. I mean massive trouble. They like to position these articles generally as a good thing, a way to keep corporations in check, way to combat inequality by taxing the corporations that run this world. However, how this is actually structured is going to be the fall of the middle class, unfortunately. Mom and pop businesses will be in massive trouble, all thanks to what I'm about to teach you right now in this video. With that being said, please smash that like button. When you hit the like button, you're gonna share this content and educate more people right now about what is really happening in America and what's really going to happen that's going to change our worlds starting now. So please hit that like button and let's begin. G7 reaches a historic deal on global tax reform. So who are the G7 nations? G7 nations: Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, United Kingdom, and United States. So under the agreement, G7 nations will back a global minimum corporate tax rate of at least 15%. The UK Finance Minister Rishi Sunak announced in a series of tweets. The reform will affect the largest companies in the world with a profit margin of at least 10%. A profit margin of at least 10%. So how do you get out of that if you're, say, Amazon or one of these large corporations? It's quite simple. You invest in your infrastructure. You build out more and more and more. Take over market share. Invest in robotics, AI, artificial intelligence. These platforms will help you defer your gains for the year. So they're going to put more money into their infrastructure. They're going to pay their employees more. And they're going to do this because it's smart. They're going to be able to absorb market share, and they're going to be able to take top talent away from small mom and pop businesses. The U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, who is in London for the face-to-face meeting, hailed the move as a significant and unprecedented. London, the finance minister of the most advanced economies, known as the Group of Seven, have backed a U.S. proposal that calls for corporations around the world to pay at least 15% tax on earnings. G7 finance minister today, after years of discussions, have reached a historic agreement to reform the global tax system to make it a fit for the global digital age. And crucially, to make sure that it's fair so that the right companies pay the right tax in the right places, UK Finance Minister Rishi Sunak announced in a video statement on Saturday. They position this as corporations like to move to other locations and still do business in the high tax areas, simply just as a way to legally defer taxes. But what they're really doing is when they put a 15% tax on these markets, they're essentially turning little brother into big brother. They are expanding. They're putting more money and power into the pockets of big brother so that, unfortunately, it just gets harder and harder for the little guy to have a vote and a say in how the world should be run. If finalized, it would represent a significant development in global taxation. Members of G7, which includes Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, UK, US, will convene for a summit in Cornell, UK next week. An agreement among this group would provide needed momentum for the upcoming talks planned with 135 countries in Paris. Finance ministers from the Group of 20 are also expected to meet in Venice in July. We commit to reaching an equitable solution on the allocation of taxing rights, with market countries awarded taxing rights on at least 20% of profits, excluding 10% margin for the largest and most profitable multinational enterprises, according to a statement from the G7 finance ministers. Where do you think that these politicians are getting their funding? They're getting their funding from these large corporations. What do these large corporations want? They want control. They want power. And if they are going to make things harder for mom and pop businesses, now is the time to do it while they're struggling and while a lot of these mom and pop businesses are on their knees. This is the final blow. This is the final blow, and they're going to be able to assume that power. And we're going to see Amazon. We've already seen what they're doing right now with their new sidewalk that they're doing. It's like Amazon Sidewalk, where they're incorporating all the Ring systems so that they can take in all of our information. And at that point, there's going to be very limited privacy. I think you can opt out of that up to today. But This is what they're doing. They're taking over data, information, small business, and what we're going to see, I believe, in the next 3 to 5 years is maybe 50 or 80 corporations that essentially control everything. So there's going to be very small, medium-sized businesses that are still out and existent. So if you are a business owner, now's the time to get as big as you humanly can. Scale, scale, scale right now so you can try to weather the storm that is very likely to come. We will provide an appropriate coordination between the application of the new international tax rules and the removal of digital service taxes and other relatable service measures on all companies, he said. The U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, who is in London for the face-to-face meeting, hailed the move as significant and unprecedented. The global minimum tax rate would end the race to the bottom in corporate taxations and ensure fairness for the middle class and working people in the U.S. and around the world, she tweeted. Well, that couldn't be further from the truth. That could not be further from the truth. They do not want the race to the bottom. What they want, ultimately, is full-fledged control over the 99%. That's what it seems like to me. With increased taxes, when these corporations are really building into their infrastructure and investing into their companies and paying their employees more and really just expanding into all of these new markets, what is going to happen? These corporations are going to find any way to expand. I think Amazon will say, you know what, it makes sense to get into multifamily real estate. We need to start buying properties. We're going to have a lot of write-offs there. Let's start buying properties. Let's start buying more and more land. Microsoft will say the same thing. Facebook will say the same thing. And what they're going to do is they're going to see how much power they have when the stimulus runs out, the unemployment runs out, all the free money, the faucet turns off, and then they increase the interest rates, and then everyone falls, and then these people have an option. Do we pay massive tax bills or do we invest into our companies? And they're gonna obviously do the most intelligent thing, which is to assume market share and control. President Joe Biden and his administration had initially suggested a minimum global tax of 21% in an attempt to prevent countries luring international businesses with low or zero taxes. However, after tough negotiations, the compromise was reached to set the bar at 15%. A global deal in the field would be good news for cash-strapped nations who are trying to rebuild their economies after the pandemic. Well, or they're trying to push forward plans like the America's Families plans, all these welfare programs, and they're doing this in a way to where they're going to be able to force people into dependence. And again, that's just another way to control people. But Biden's idea had not been received with the same level of excitement across the world. The UK, for example, did not immediately voice its support for the proposal. The issues can be contentious within the European Union as well, where various member states charge different corporate tax rates and can attract big name firms from doing so. Ireland's tax rates, for example, is 12.5%, where France can be as high as 31%. Speaking in April, Irish Finance Minister Pascal Donoghue said smaller nations should be allowed to have lower tax rates given that they don't have the same capacity for scale as larger economies do, the UK Guardian newspaper reported. The world's most powerful economies have been at odds over taxation for some time, in particular in the wake of plans to tax digital giants more. The US former President Donald Trump vehemently opposed digital taxation incentives in different countries and threatened to oppose trade tariffs against countries that would plan on taxing U.S. companies. Some major firms across the world retracted positively the agreements on Saturday. Nick Clegg, Vice President of Global Affairs at Facebook, wrote in a tweet that companies welcome the G7 tax rule. That says a lot. When Facebook is welcoming G7, what does that communicate to all of us? It communicates that this is a huge power grab for Facebook. We want the international tax reform process to succeed and recognize this could mean Facebook paying more tax and in different places, Clegg wrote, I'm sure. Google spokesman Jose Quesada told CNBC in a statement that the company supports efforts to update international trade rules, tax rules. We hope countries continue to work together to ensure a balanced and durable agreement will be finalized soon, he said. Now, this is pretty crazy. Uncertain times, very uncertain times. I feel like we're living in a period right now where half of the world thinks that everything is great. The economy is phenomenal. Real estate market's booming. Stock market's booming. Interest rates are at zero. It's like free money. Everyone's just out there on a buying frenzy. But then there's the other half of the world that thinks that there's big problems ahead. And with these big problems comes big opportunity. So I believe that big tech firms are sitting on the sidelines, accumulating capital and establishing a real path forward for their companies. And that's why you have maybe Bill Gates liquidating most of his shares. You have a lot of really big companies betting that there's going to be problems ahead. Michael Burry is betting that we are going to see inflation. Well, as all this happens, what's going to happen? It's going to be more expensive for people to live. And that's going to equal and equate to financial hardship for many. So we're stepping into some really just uncertain times. Be very, very smart with your strategy. What do you guys think about what's happening with G7 and what they're trying to do with a 15% minimum tax rate? Drop your comments below. Genuinely curious what you guys think about that. Please smash that like button. Consider subscribing here. And I have a second channel where I'm in the process right now of obtaining my private pilot license. If you want to learn how to get started on YouTube, invest in real estate, all that I'm talking about on my other channel. I'll leave the link down below. Really, really cool stuff. And see you guys next video.